Welcome to my channel. Think happy, be happy. Subscribe. Like. A Sudden Swirl of Icy Wind Chapter 3. You're great, 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 great. He hesitated a moment, and then shrugged. One of your grandfather's dash of honored memory was a fine sailor called Captain Fluke the Adventurer, and he commanded a fine ship and followed the four winds on seas blackened by storm and frosted by moonlight. He took his ship further than any other, past where the whales whistle and the porpoises roll, and he was always the first to see strange things. William hugged his knees. I know, he said. Granny has an embroidery hanging above her bed. I learned it when I had chicken pox. It says, they that go down to the sea in ships, and do business in great waters, these see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. Exactly so, agreed Mustafa. And Captain Fluke saw many wonders and sailed many seas. But no man holds the wind in his hands, and there came a day when not a breath stirred in his ship's sails. And another day, and another, and 4 weeks afterwards the ship rocked only at the mercy of the waves, while the tar bubbled in her seams from the heat, and the decks cracked, and the crew turned from men to living skeletons. Then, out of spite, a wind rose into a cruel squall which tore the sails into 1,000 pieces, and drove the ship on rocks, and all the men that were not starved were drowned. But not him. Not him. A wave lifted her white neck, and dropped the captain on the sands of an island. And it was there, searching for water, that Captain Fluke found an old bottle dash and pulled out the stopper, and freed your servant from 1,000 years of idleness. William closed his eyes as Mustafa told his story, and saw the mist that poured out of the bottle, causing Captain Fluke to stumble back on the shingle in his astonishment. He saw the fog that rose, up, up and up, making the sea boil, till it reached high as the clouds and towered darkly over the ocean and the land, before it took its ancient, magic shape. Was he as scared as I was? He did me the honor of appearing so. And when he stopped being frightened, what did he want? Mustafa snorted. Trifles and toys, jugs of crystal water, a loaf of bread, and afterwards rubies, sapphires, riches of all kinds, and of course, a magic carpet. To fly to a safe place. No place boasts safety. The genie shook his head. I bring a man only the lesser gifts of treasure and luxury. The two great gifts are not within my power. The two great gifts. What are they? Wisdom and life. William thought about it for a moment. It made sense. Then he looked up, and saw Mustafa watching him with a little smile. Go on, William ordered. Carry on with the story. The genie bowed his head. You have only to command me. The carpet flew over India and over Persia. It flew over Syria and Egypt, and all of Arabia. It flew over 12 great deserts and 12 great cities. And all the while Captain Fluke the Adventurer was hungry for more treasures, bags of gold, strings of pearls, dishes of diamonds. And he piled them round him on the magic carpet till he was satisfied at last. And then he leaned over and pointed to a courtyard far below, with fountains and shady palm trees, and that's where you brought the carpet down to land. Indeed, he had only to command me. The carpet circled the high minaret tower on which the muezzin stood, calling the faithful to prayer. And it came gently to rest on firm ground, under the branches of a spreading tamarind tree. Were the people astonished to see him? Nobody saw. Was no one there? The courtyard was filled with people. It was noon on the last day of the week, and everyone had come to pray. There were so many worshippers that those who could not fit inside the mosque had unfolded their prayer mats on the stones of the courtyard, to make their own little holy place. to make their own little holy place. And, turning towards Mecca, their holiest place of all, they said their prayers to Allah the Beneficent, the Merciful, bowing their heads to the ground. And so they didn't notice Captain Flook. No, they were deep in prayer. And he, dizzy from flying through air, didn't see them. He stood and stretched and yawned, and felt the good hard ground beneath his feet. And his thoughts turned at once to his treasures, and what they might be worth. So hastily gathering up all the gems he could, Captain Flook stepped out of the shade into sunlight. Didn't they notice him then? No. But now, at last, the captain noticed them. For at that very moment the minister of the mosque, the imam, began to read aloud from the holy book. The east and the west is God's, he declared. Therefore, whichever way you turn, there is the face of God. Truly, God is immense and knowing. It sounds like something Granny might embroider, said William. Mustafa shrugged. A Christian reads the Bible, a Muslim the Quran, a Jew the Torah. Lose one book, and you could reach God with another. The stones that build all the great faiths are much the same. Only the roof tiles and the decorations differ. I have seen good men everywhere, and everywhere a good man is known for what he is. So they wouldn't mind the captain being in their courtyard. Not in the slightest. The captain would have been welcome. But when he heard the imam's voice, he spun around in surprise. The dish of gems flashed in the fierce sunlight, and the captain was dazzled. Stumbling, he showered over the bent backs of the worshippers a cascade of diamonds and emeralds, sapphires and amethysts, rubies and opals, crystals and pearls. William's eyes widened. Did he go after them? Indeed he did. Mustafa's lip curled. Scrabbling and snatching, tripping and cursing. Cursing. Yes, cursing. Even as the faithful were at prayer. It made shooting little pellets at a plastic crib look like pretty mild stuff. William felt rather cheered as Mustafa went on with the story of how Captain Flook the adventurer fell in such deep trouble. At first, no one moved, such was their shock and disgust. Then, as even the captain realized his foolishness, and left off his hunt for gems, there was the most terrible silence. The only sound to be heard was the faint clatter of a diamond here, the soft roll of a pearl there. And then, as the imam took up his reading of the Quran again, little Kazim Ali, who sold burnt peas in the marketplace, leaped to his feet. He signaled to his friend Zantout, who watered the streets to lay the dust. And together they turned their eyes on Abu Mikhares, who was the strongest man in the caliph's guard. And without a word the three of them seized Captain Flook, who had only a moment to kick the old green bottle safely away under the tamarind tree. Where did they take him? To the prison nearby, where he was locked up so that he could no longer disturb their holy prayers. Just like me, really, said William. And for upsetting people in exactly the same way, as I dared to suggest, Mustafa reminded him. Perhaps the captain lives a second time in you? We've got it a bit better this time, then, said William. Being stuck in here can't be half as bad as being in prison. Mustafa raised an eyebrow. Forgive me, he murmured. But truth is not hid in a nutmeg. Compared with this place, the prison was a palace brimming with pleasure and luxury. Maybe the storeroom wasn't the best room in Granny's house. Or the tidiest. But even so, William felt duty-bound to defend it. That isn't very polite. How could a prison be better than here? In answer, Mustafa just murmured, Kas na gayad ki dugaiman tersh ast. What does that mean? Nobody calls his own buttermilk sour. William was irritated. Tell me, he ordered, how Captain Flook could be better off in his prison than I am here. Mustafa bowed his head. You have only to command me. First, In his prison, Captain Flook found a dish of weevils feasting on rotten barley bread. Here, there is nothing. Indeed, a man's belly might begin to fear his throat was cut. William was till unraveling this when Mustafa continued. Second, in prison the captain had the company of 40 learned men. Here, before I arose 40 learned men? In a prison. Most certainly. And most learned. All doctors. All doctors? How? Perfectly simple. The caliph was weak and sickly. So with the rising of each moon, he summoned a doctor and demanded a cure. Then, as the moon waned and he felt no better, he threw the doctor in prison. 40 doctors, though. That's longer than 3 years of being ill. What on earth was wrong with him? Mustafa sniffed. Everything and nothing. Nothing and everything. Everything because the man was weak almost to death. Nothing because the cause was a lifetime of idleness. The caliph had young girls to fan him and young boys to lift the spoon up to his lips. He had women to bring him his robes and dress him, and men to carry him from place to place. From the moment his honored mother gave him birth, the feet of the caliph had never touched the ground. Never touched the ground. William was shocked. I don't believe it. I can assure you that it was the truth. The soles of his slippers were made of the finest silver tissue. William rocked on the carpet, hugging his knees and gazing at his own tough winter shoes. Slippers of silver tissue. Ridiculous? Glancing up at Mustafa, he asked, didn't any of the doctors notice? Didn't they guess? Guess? They were all fine doctors. They all knew, but none of them dared say. It made sense. William would not have wanted to be the first to tell a mighty caliph that he was actually a lazy slug. Tricky. A hint of admiration crept into Mustafa's voice. It was a puzzle to test even a genie's powers. To be continued. Please subscribe my channel and encourage me to upload more videos.
Like, comment, share, subscribe and press the bell icon and never miss another update.